Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second or third installment of the Clann Podcast. Brilliantly called Keeping Up with the Clans. I'm not sure who came up with that name. Thanks to all who downloaded and listened to the first show. That was the interview with our new Clann chairperson, Emma Loughlin. And this week, it's my absolute delight to welcome a very special guest to the Clann Podcast, Keeping Up with Clans. She needs no introduction, but we're going to give her one anyway. She is the master of footwork, a former Riverdance lead, and a local legend in the Irish dancing world, Melissa Convery. Masterson, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Conor. Lovely to be here, and thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. Well, we have a great short list. I was getting a long list now of local celebrities that we want to interview, and the very fact that you're at the top of the list, Melissa, shows the esteem with which you're held in Banbridge. So tell me, how you get... Well, it's just as well. We should tell the listeners, we had a quick discussion as to whether or not this would be an audio interview or a video interview, and we both agreed that we'll just go for audio only. So if your head is getting big or if your cheeks are getting red there, we can't see it. So tell me, Melissa, how are you getting on during lockdown?
Not too bad, Conor. We just, we're trying to keep the best side out, really. Just trying to be positive and trying to just keep ourselves occupied. And through dancing as well, I think it's really good for the children, just some kind of diversion, so it's just really keeping yourself occupied the whole time,
Well,
with your own kids.
Get on to sorry for cutting across you. We'll get on to your family circumstances in a minute, but for those who don't know, obviously I've given you a bit of an introduction, Melissa. You run an Irish dancing class in the local area, and you have done for a number of years now.
Yeah.
And can you tell the listeners then how that's going in particular during these strange old months since March?
Yeah. Well, since basically last March, I suppose, the Convery Academy has just basically, it's gone online now. Yeah. So we're doing everything through Zoom classes, and, they're not ideal. They're not, they don't replace the face-to-face teaching, but, at least still something. It's still, the kids are still dancing, and they get that opportunity to dance, 2 to 3, 4 times a week, 5 times, how many times they want to do it themselves, a week. So just to be able to provide that for them, I feel it's important for them to, get an outlay, and for their mental health as well. This time is extremely important for the kids. So thankfully, we have been able to keep it running in that respect.
It's probably it's a very artificial way of running things, Melissa, but can you give us some insight as to how you actually manage, if you're sitting, I presume, are you in your own house or are you in a hall somewhere?
Yeah, I'm in one of the rooms in my house, but it can kind of vary. It can go whatever. If somebody needs something to eat in the kitchen, it could move very quickly into a different room.
I see. And then how many kids would you have per session, zooming in or linking in?
You could it depends, I'll do smaller sessions. I do them in different age groups, on different levels. So, you can have up to maybe 10 in one session and then 15 to 20 in another session. It just depends, it depends on what grade and what level they're at,
And I assume then, because of social distancing, they're all going one at a time, and you have to try and judge their footwork remotely.
You let them go, you have all a screen full, of kids. And then you're trying to, visualize who's that and where are they? And then the screen jumps, then somebody else joins.
Of course.
So, but yeah, what you do is, you let them go, 1, 2, 3 at a time, and you watch them. And then it's just like, it's like, for me, it's like judging anyway. So I would be watching them, like I would be judging the children at a feis or competitors at a feis. So, and then I would critique them afterwards. And so I'll give them their notes afterwards and say it's up to them to go away and then put that into practice, So that's it.
But I would say it goes without saying that you can't wait till normality returns and you actually all reunite in a hall somewhere and you can actually...
Without a doubt. I cannot wait. And, we are all, the Ulster Council of Irish Dancing here in the North, we're trying to put together ideas just to keep the children, focused and give them something to work forward to. And because competitions, everything is stopped, so there's nothing for to aim for. So we're just kind of grouping together to, get some form of dances and merging with other forms of dance as well. So hopefully that'll, that's in the pipeline. So something will come of that as well. But it's just really, at this stage, just giving them something to look forward to. So, and now competitions are starting to go online. So this is a first as well. So,
Very
you
good.
know, that'll be interesting to see how that one works out as well.
Well, isn't it just a reflection, I suppose, on society, and everybody's really had to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the very fact we're speaking and we're recording a podcast for Clann
Yeah.
shows how the clans had to adapt as well. And obviously, thanks to the cultural committee for having the idea, and for Fran
Yes,
for
Fran's
organising
great.
it. Tell me, now that we've got that established, and for those who are getting to know you just through those first couple of minutes, you're originally a Banbridge girl, Melissa, aren't you?
I am indeed, born and bred.
Tell us a bit about yourself then, and how you first get into Irish dancing.
Yes, well, as I said, I was born in Banbridge, and my mum, she danced whenever she was younger, and basically, she just took me along to, it was the old St. Patrick's Hall. It's not there now, but it was there many years ago. And she just said, if I have a wee girl, maybe she'd like to dance. And so she brought me along. I think it was on my 3rd or 4th birthday, and then I went to the old St. Patrick's Hall and danced for the McKay School of Dancing at the time. Yeah. And, I just took to it, loved it, and, danced away, and just kind of showed, an immediate kind of interest in it. And it just carried on from there. And I think with Irish dancing, from the beginning, whether your heart and soul is in it, and this is for you, because it's really hard. It's a difficult form of dance,
Well, I was going to ask Melissa whether your heart and soul, without having a big head, could you tell, or could your parents maybe tell around you that you had a special talent for it? You were slightly advanced or better than the other girls in the class from a young age?
Well, I think maybe, whenever everybody walks through the door, and each child is different, you know what I mean? Every child learns in a different way. Some kids come in the door and they pick up things very fast, and then another child will come in the door and they'll pick it up at their own speed in their own time. But that child who does it at their own speed could be absolutely amazing, you know what I mean, in years to come. Everyone's different. I think, I don't know, maybe, I picked it up quickly and then just carried that on and went into competition very, very quickly at a young age. And at 4-year-old, I won my first championship. And I think, that could have been local, that could have been in the town itself, God, I can't even remember, so long ago. But so I think from there, the interest, I think we got the bug. That's what it was. You got a bug for it and carried it on. And so, I did well, when I competed at that age. And then but myself, I loved it. You know what I mean? I knew in my heart and soul it was something I wanted to do. So I just carried on from there, And
tell me, Melissa, obviously there'd be a small amount of overlap with Gaelic football, and the extent that you need some good footwork and you'd need to be light on your foot. Were you sporty growing up? Did you have any other interest? Did you play netball or Gaelic football or football or anything?
I did athletics, and I also did archery as well. And I kind of got into, lots of things, but and showed kind of a keen interest in them all. I was in the Banbridge Athletics Club, and that went into the schools athletics, the schools as well. And so I was in the 4x100 meter relay team for the athletics club. And then the schools, we represented the schools in the community games and stuff, and we did really well. We were a good wee team, and we won. And so, as these interests were there as well. But it got to the stage where I was the dancing, I was at World Championship level with the dancing.
Yes. Well, I remember that, because obviously you were in the same year in St. Mary's as my sister Sinead.
That's right,
I vividly remember the Chronicle nearly every week. You'd have been plastered over the front page, not the back page, having won something or other. But it was clear then you were more than just a local hero, or even Northern Ireland heats. You were going to international competitions and winning them.
That's right. We see, when you dance, you start off, you do your local competitions, and then you'll progress. You'll get to the start of the Ulster Championships, and really for an Irish dancer, their aim is to get to the World Championships. I suppose like any athlete, you know what I mean, is to get to the pinnacle of their form of what they want to be. So for me, it was the World Championships, and you have to qualify. So like any other, athletic sport, you have to qualify to get through. So the Ulster Championships was the only way to qualify, and the All-Ireland Championships to get to the World Championships whenever we were dancing.
Yes.
And Ulster was the hardest region in the world. So if you could get through Ulster, you were doing well. You know what I mean? Let alone.
Sorry, I'm cutting across here. Were there
Yeah.
standard higher in Ulster because there were more girls dancing, or was it just higher in Ulster compared to the other provinces?
It was just
standard.
It was just higher, and in Ulster, it always has been, and to this day, it still is.
But you know what I mean? It isn't the numbers. It isn't that there are more people doing it in Ulster than Leinster, Connacht, or Munster. It's just
no, it wouldn't be that. It's just standard. It was always higher, and you know they were always watching. Anybody who came out of Ulster was the one to watch. Do you know what I mean? So we went then. You know, so you really. I remember qualifying for the Worlds. I was only, I think I was 10-year-old, I think, and I qualified for the Worlds in Donegal. That's where the Ulsters was, and gosh, it was. I got 10th in the Ulsters that year. Couldn't believe it. And you know, it was that you were waiting for that place to see if you would actually get it. When they called the result, they called my number. Oh my gosh, sure, we hit the roof, like, you know, we couldn't believe it. And the following year I won the Ulster Championships. So I went from just qualifying for my first time ever the first year, and then the next year I won the Ulsters. So, and from then it went from there, you know. So
remember what the age group would that have been, Melissa, or what?
The first year would have been under, I think it was 10 to 11, and then the second year I won the Ulster Championship at under 12 age group.
And again, it's a very rude question to ask a lady her age, but I know what it is. You're the same age as Sinead, my sister. But for those listening, what age?
Stop that now.
We'll give them a general indication as to when this was. This was pre-Riverdance, essentially, wasn't it?
It was way pre-Riverdance. It was 89, 90.
Right.
Oh my God.
I'm very sorry. Hopefully they don't have good numeric skills or good mathematics skills.
Carry on there. Question.
The point I'm seeking to make, and being very rude and being very intrusive in doing so, is that nobody had ever heard of Riverdance, and the whole Irish explosion and the cool Michael Flatley sensation and the cores and all that had yet to explode. So at that stage, and maybe you didn't have any such aspirations, but did you see any career at the age of 10 or 12, Melissa, or was it more just a matter of personal pride, winning the Worlds and winning Ulsters and winning Irish, or could you see actually a life?
Well, at that, you know, as you say, at that stage, Riverdance wasn't even on the radar. It didn't. I think it came into when I was about 16. Riverdance came on the scene. Yeah. So I was just training because I loved, and it goes back to what we were saying previously about, you know, knowing your heart and soul. If you're an Irish dancer and you want to get to the top, your heart and soul has to be in it, because it's such a tough, and I would call it a sport, you know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't get recognized as a sport, but it is so, you train as hard as any Olympic athlete, you know, and it's so tough, and you get so many knockbacks, and you have to be so thick-skinned to come back from that. Many people will just say, that's not for me. I'm not taking that. I'm off. You know what I mean? You can totally understand that. You can see that, but you have to be so thick-skinned to get through there. And I think I just had that determination in me from a young age, and I wouldn't let anything beat me, you know, so I wanted to carry on, and I did, and I won the Ulsters 3 times, and then I went on to, I was British champion twice, and then I went on to the Worlds. So it was just that for me, it was, you know, you had to qualify. It was your goal for that year, and I had those goals that I wanted to get there, you know. And then I think Riverdance came, and also I think I always had that performer thing in me that I really wanted to do something like that. But at that stage, there was no such thing as Riverdance. You didn't know, and I always remember thinking, I'd love to dance on stage in some form like that, just as a kid. And then you thought, actually, you're only a kid, and this is the dream you have, you know. But I knew there's something in me that I always wanted to do that. But as I said, then Riverdance wasn't nowhere near the same. But you always can. In my heart, I always hoped it'd be something like that, you know. And then lo and behold, it came along several years later, you know. So
can I ask, Melissa, you said there, and I would completely agree with that. I'd actually never thought of dancing as a sport, but you're quite right to say that. I'm a massive sports fan, and I refuse to accept that things like snooker and darts are sports, and it really annoys me that they get lumped in together. But of course, dancing would be, especially at the scale of the dance that you would have been at, in terms of the exertion that you put yourself through and the training. But you were saying also, something caught my attention there. You said also you think that you had a mental edge that helped you get back from setbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, there was just, when you're competing, you're sitting in front of, you know, 6, 9 judges
Yeah.
at major, and it's their opinion. You know what I mean? It's what they put down on, it's what points they put down on the paper, it's what they feel, you know what I mean? And you necessarily may not agree with that, but at the end of the day, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And it can go your way, and there's times it won't go your way, and more than often it doesn't go your way, you know what I mean? So that's where you built up a resilience, you know, to kind of, you know, come back from that. And that's what I always say to my kids who are competing, because I have some fantastic dancers in my school, and you know, they go out and they dance brilliant, and from a very young age, you know. And I have quite a group of at the minute they're under 9s, and they all compete against each other, and they're absolutely brilliant. They're probably some of the best dancers in Ulster at the moment,
And they push
and
each other on, do they?
they do. They thrive off each other. They push each other on, and they compete against each other. And you know what? There can always only be one winner. And so when you have 5 of them there in one competition, you know what I mean? Plus against the rest of the dancers of their age group that are absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you take that all into account. But you know, they're very supportive of each other, and they get their wins, they get their knockbacks, and at that young age they're learning to be resilient, you know what I mean? So I say,
ask you, Melissa, obviously within that small group of dancers you have, there is a certain amount of rivalry, but is it the case that you were coming up against the same talented girls in Ulster, in the down heats or the Ulster heats or the All Ireland heats? And if so, did any particular rivalries develop between you and any other girl? Did it turn nasty at any stage?
Well,
we're talking about like a Tonya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan situation, the famous ice dancing.
I don't know if I should tell you. Am I joking?
We'll go on ahead. As long as it's for family consumption, go on ahead, Melissa.
No, I mean, in most cases, you know, I was always taught by my parents, you have to be a good sport the whole way through. You know, that was the way it was, and I always was like that. And for the most case, everybody in my competition were the same. Now, not everyone. You would have got your odd one that, you know, may have come up to you when, say, you won a major championship, and they would have said, "Oh, pressure's on you for next year," and that was said on a few occasions, you know. And thankfully I won the next year. So but you know, I kind of I just let them off. I mean, you know, if that's the way people want to take it, you know, if they take a better pill, fair enough. I rise above that and walk on, you know. But no, you would have, but it's also a thing in Irish dance, there could be quite a lot of politics involved as well. But that other thing you have to be able to rise above, you know what I mean? So it's tough going, like, you know, it really is. It's not an easy thing.
It strikes me there are a lot of parallels with football then. Coming up against the same players or the same teams, and then obviously your judges are our referees, and we might have hold certain grudges against certain referees, rightly or wrongly. It might be complete conspiracy, mad stuff, but it might spur you on the next game, or it might deflate you if you find out that referee is going to be over the game. Did you have any particular judges? And you don't need to name names, but were there any judges that you were coming up against because you had, as I said, maybe completely madly or incorrectly formed the opinion that they were against you and for your rival?
Well, I suppose for me, I lived in my own bubble, which I think was a good thing. When I look back on it now, it was a good thing, because there was too many of them got too involved, and they really analysed each judge. Do you know what I mean? And you whispers, this one doesn't like me, and that one loves me, and oh God, she hates me. But there's all this, you know, talk behind the scenes before you're going on. Just you wouldn't know who kind of throw you off or do this. So I always closed my eyes and ears to it and just lived in my own wee world. And thank God I did. You know what I mean? Because it did me better. I have to say, thankfully, more of them liked me. You know, other than the other way. But in saying that as well, like, I mean, I was let down so many times. I went to the World Championships, and there was a judge who gave me, now I was winning the World Championships. Wait till you hear this one. Winning the World Championships, I was number 1 sitting going into the third round. Won the first round, won the second round, and end up tied in the third round. And going into that third round, one judge gave me 0. Absolutely 0 points, right? So, you want to hear this? That was in Galway, so it was in 1996, I think.
Uh-huh.
And whenever the points went up, you know, on the board, sure, the place started booing, and I've never known that ever happened before in my life in a competition, and I kind of got embarrassed because, you know, people were disgusted. But that just goes to show you that's what happens. You know what I mean?
Well, you had the last laugh, Melissa, anyway, and whoever judged and whatever motivation was behind that judge, they clearly weren't vindicated, because you ended up getting the big break. And we're going to ask you about that in a minute. But clearly, this was the age of your early teens and going into your teenage years. You moved from St. Mary's. You went to Sacred Heart, isn't that right, in Newry?
That's right, yes, I did.
And you were pursuing a career, or pursuing your education with a view to going to university or getting a job afterwards. But was it in and around then that you started thinking that there was potentially an alternative career to the normal boring job that the rest of us have?
Well, that stage, Riverdance was big. It had just hit, you know, the headlines. It was all over the world. It was just huge. And going back to what I'd said before, earlier, I knew there was something in me, that there was a performer there that wanted to do something else rather than maybe sit in an office, or, you know, I don't think I was cut out to do that. Do you know what I mean? So I always felt I would just love to be on stage, dancing, performing in some capacity. I know in my soul that's there, and that if ever the opportunity came up, I would love to take it. And so in my last World Championships in 1990, actually it was second last, 1996, there was a few, Michael Flatley's show, Lord of the Dance, it was just starting. Riverdance was on, and Jean Butler and Colin Dunn's show, it was called Dancing on Dangerous Grounds, it was just about to take off in the West End. And so they were all there scouting at the World Championships, and I was dancing. So I had been approached by Riverdance to audition, and then I'd also been approached by Lord of the Dance to audition for their show too.
And so they wanted to, for those who don't know, and I don't know too much about it, but I know a tiny bit about it. Riverdance had moved on from being the halftime show in the Eurovision to being a touring production in the West End and in Broadway and throughout the world.
Yeah, it just had started touring then. So it was based in Hammersmith, Apollo. So it was at this stage, it just had done its first tour. And so that was up till about Easter time. That was because the World Championships was Easter, and so they had just finished their first tour, or second tour maybe, and I was approached then to come and audition, and it was literally a week later that they wanted to me to come go and audition, and Lord of the Dance as well at the same time. So I had the two of them kind of, you know, in the palm of my hand there, and I was thinking, what should I do? Should I go for Riverdance or should I go for Lord of the Dance? And just because Riverdance had been established, I think I felt safe with Riverdance, and it was huge. So I went for the audition in Dublin, and sure, I'll never forget it. I mean, God rest my grandmother, she came down with me and my mum and my dad that day, and we travelled down to Dublin, and off I went in and I did the audition, and then I got a call back.
Very good.
On this to they were narrowing their numbers down, you know, to pick it was a handful, and so anyway, they got the call back, and then they'd said to me, fantastic, thanks a million, we will let you know in whatever, a couple of weeks time, stay by your phone. I says, that's grand. So true to the word, a few weeks later they rang and said that, you know, I had been successful and that they wanted me to go to Edinburgh literally 2 days later. Brilliant. They were saying, pack eggs, we have you in the show in 2 days time, are you ready to go?
And what age were you, Melissa?
I was 17 at this stage.
Brilliant.
And I was doing my, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm scared. You know, so I was like, right. And so they said, have a discussion with your parents, see what you think, and just get back to us quick, basically, you know. So I set the phone down and I went, oh my God, what do we do here? And so they're like, well, you know, school's always there, follow your dream, go for it. Brilliant. And that's really, I mean, for me, there was no, you know, it didn't take me long to make my mind up. That was exactly what I wanted to do, you know.
And then what ensued then, Melissa? How long were you touring?
Well, the thing was, they said to me to come for a week, right? And okay, so I thought, go for a week, and then that's back to normality, and went for a week, and I never came home. That was it. I went, and I ended up I was over in Edinburgh. The show was in the Playhouse in Edinburgh at the time, and I was sent off to do a television show in Rotterdam. it was a publicity show that we wanted us to do. So they sent me over to Rotterdam to do the show, and then I thought that was it, that I was going to come back and, you know, never hear from them again, or maybe, you know, if I was lucky enough, maybe hear from them another time.
Yeah.
But whenever everyone else was, you know, they picked a few people to go over, they sent them all home and they asked me to stay. And they said, you know, Melissa, there's a place in the show, actually, there's somebody who's got injured, and would you mind filling in for the next week? And I said, oh God, yeah, that's fine. If it's a week, that's okay. You know, I can surely get off school for the week, it'll be fine. And and I stayed in the show, and I learned the whole show, and literally got off the plane and was in the show that night. And so, you know, so it was very nerve-wracking, you know. So you were there with the original troupe of dancers from the Eurovision, and they were great. And, you know, they were like, come on, you'll be grand, let's do this. And you're like, oh God, I'm coming out on stage here. I'm already literally off the plane. I'm trying to think, you know, of a whole show in my head here, and I can't mess up, you know. So, but it got on, and sure, never looked back. You know, it was just fantastic. Couldn't believe it. You were standing there, literally pinch yourself moments, like, you know, standing on the stage, performing, you know, in the theatre, watching all these people, and just to stand in ovations every night of the week. It was just phenomenal, you know. So yeah, so that's where it started. It started in Edinburgh.
And where, tell the listeners then where it took you around the world.
So after that, we toured then. We went all over Europe. We were in the West End for quite a while, in Hammersmith Apollo. Then we went on a world tour. We went all over, as I said, all over Europe. We went to all Asia, Australia, New Zealand. And then when we did that a few times. And then I came back. I went to Broadway then, because the Broadway story was, we were in Hong Kong actually on tour, and we had a downtime actually after the end of that tour for a couple of months. And so I said to myself, might just check out and see anybody wants a break in Broadway, because the show on Broadway had been touring constantly. So people like to take time off and like to have depths, because they've been constantly 8 shows a week and they needed a break. And I said, might just drop a line to see if anyone wants a dep. And so as it turned out, one of the girls who was dancing was still competing, and she wanted to dance her last World Championship. She was trying to win the Worlds. And so I had retired, obviously, from competitive dancing at this stage. So she said to me, would you mind filling in for 8 weeks for me? I said, gosh, that'd be absolutely perfect. It's something I wanted to do, you know, and I get to dance on Broadway. And so anyway, off we went. And that was in January 2001, I think it was, yes. And went for the 8 weeks. And so filled in, had the best time of my life. Absolutely a ball, like we had. But in saying that, at the beginning, I remember, like, it was my first time in New York, and it was quite scary. It was quite a scary experience. It was just like wall to wall concrete, you know, busy, and thinking, oh God, I'm not going to survive this. You know?
Up and down bridge.
Yeah, I was like, oh God, this wasn't the impression I thought it was going to be like. So, and I remember saying to myself, I saying a few of them in the show as well, you know, I love it and I'm having a ball, but I tell you, I'll be glad to get out of it, you know. And of course they were like, oh, this is great. They were used to it. I kind of was hedging my bets a bit. And I remember saying to myself, no, that'll be it. Like, as soon as I'm done my 8 weeks, I'll go back on tour and do the European tour. You know, and made a joke, right? And I said, if they offered me the lead, I wouldn't do it, right? I want to get back to
famous last words.
Swear, honest to God. So the next day I was going in, and they called me into the office, and I went, oh God, I'm in trouble. What have I done? And so they said, Melissa, we just wanted to know how you're getting on. And I said, yeah, grand. So I'm heading back to Europe. He says, well, yeah, that's the thing. You are heading back. You're due to be heading back to the European leg of the tour next week, but we have different plans. And I said, have you? And I said, and what would they be? And they said, well, have been watching, and we would like to offer you understudy to the lead role. And I was like, oh my goodness, right? So like on Broadway. And I was thinking, whew. And, you know, after me thinking to myself, I can't wait to get out of this place, to being offered lead role on Broadway, which meant I would be a permanent base there, you know. And I said, right. And they said, have a think about it, let us know what you think, and then, you know, come back in tomorrow and we'll talk about it. So I just went, oh gosh, I can't believe this. I says, as much as I'd love to do, the lead, I don't want to stay here. And
Really?
I can't deal with New York. Right? like I have to go and find my own apartment, and I have to do this, and I have to be responsible.
There's nobody that around well, obviously you're telling us there wasn't. You had to fend for yourself outside of.
Yeah, you had basically, there was no hotels. They didn't put you up in your hotel. You had to go and find your own apartment.
Right.
You had to put your deposit down in your own place, and although you were looked after, but still you had to go and do all this stuff. It was like go and way down to IKEA there and buy your bed and buy do all this. It was like, oh, I'm not ready for this.
Tell me, listen, was there a social side of things afterwards, or were you all so knackered after jumping around the stage for 2 or 3 hours that it's straight back?
Oh no, there was a very social side of it. The social side of it was too much. It was fantastic. Oh my gosh. But anyway, long story short, I accepted the role of understudy on Broadway and based myself in New York, and honestly, it turned out to be the best experience of my life. Brilliant. It was brilliant. New York was you just grew to love it, and I absolutely had a ball. And yes, like that, you worked hard and you played hard.
Yeah. How long did that last for, that stint then on Broadway?
That stint finished, it started in 2000, it finished in 2001, just 3 weeks before September the 11th. Oh. So it did. Yeah. Right. So you know what, I had left to go back on tour with the European tour. And so I was very lucky, because they'd said to me, Broadway is finishing up. We're just sorting out where our principals are going and where our leads are going. So they offered me a contract back in Europe. So off I went, and we were on a tour. I was in Munich at the time, and when September 11th happened. So yes, Broadway had just closed 3 weeks before that. So yeah, it went 2001 in August to finish.
And you then settled in America afterwards for a good few years, Melissa, isn't that right?
Yeah, we did. We then after touring, because we're American citizens, so we had initially I had my green card, and then we had spent so much time touring in America anyway. We had qualified then for our citizenship. So yes, we lived in Florida then for about 4 or 5 years then after that. So it was lovely. It was a lovely. The climate was great. It was a lovely way of life. Yeah. But then after having stuff, as much as I loved it, you kind of missed your family and the support network. So once the door was closed, the door was closed. And you didn't really have anyone after that. So it was kind of quite lonely in a way. But we just made the decision then about 5 or 6 years.
And you say, Melissa, at this stage, had you met your husband?
Yes, Declan, he was in the show. Now, he was in Riverdance as well, as long as I was.
For anyone listening, he's not a dancer though, isn't that right?
No, Declan's a musician.
Very good.
He used to be the soloist, uilleann pipe player, in the show, and the musical director. So, but he is like an accredited trad musician. He's 5 solo albums to his name as well, and worked with amazing a miles list long people.
I think the Clann Cultural Committee are very interested in acquiring his services or his expertise or his knowledge at some stage or another. So I'm sure to drop his name in as well. And he's not American. Where's he from, Melissa, originally?
Oh, Declan's from Dublin. Right. And yes, so he was in the show. He toured in the show with me as well. But as I said, we lived in Florida then, and then he was musical director for Raglan Road for Disney, Raglan Road, Irish bar. So while we were there, he had the contract there for a good while. So when that was kind of finishing up, we were trying to decide, should we stay for another contract or should we go home? And with the 3 children, I just felt, and we both just felt like, we need that family support. And also you wanted your family to see your children growing up too, so, and you just weighed everything up with life there and life at home. And so we just, Banbridge won over in the end.
And when did you move back to Banbridge then?
Moved back, I think it was about 6 years ago. Summertime, 6 years ago, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What age are your kids?
Well, Rion, he turned 12 yesterday. And
very good. Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. And Riley, he's 9, and Savannah, she's 7. So they keep us busy.
Have you them up at the Clann, obviously, with the Clann?
Yes, they were there. So just with things stopped now, we have to get everything back up and running again, hopefully very, very soon, and we'll all be back with force.
Very good. Now, I've mentioned Clann there, and obviously the Clann podcast, but the last time I saw you in person, you probably remember this, was a couple of years ago for the Strictly Come Dancing, the second installment of the Strictly Come Dancing.
That's right.
I have to, if you don't mind me telling you, telling the stories, telling the listeners a small story. You were roped in not as the creative dancing teacher for the dancers, because they were all doing very modern dance and various other things.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Essentially the organizer of the halftime show, which essentially was a rip-off of Riverdance, isn't that right to say?
It was, and it was great fun.
It was great fun. And your lead partner on that occasion was Shane Nelson, a good buddy of mine from the Clann senior team, who had won a couple of years previously the Strictly Come Dancing with his partner Evan Gillen. Now Shane's obviously very good in his feet, but we probably can tell the listeners now, and for a lot of people who probably don't know this, I was compere that night with Stephen Green. And I think it was the first or second night. It might have been the second night, was it? Did the first night go okay? But coming up to the halftime show.
Oh no, second night.
Oh, you'd forgotten what I was going to tell.
No, I don't really know what you're saying. Oh no.
So all the amateur dancers, Melissa had cajoled them into a very entertaining and enjoyable halftime show, about a 5 or 6 minute sort of ode to Riverdance. And the point of me was essentially to buy some time whilst people got up and had a toilet break and went to the bar and got a drink in between the two sets of the show. Melissa would come out whenever she gave the thumbs up. The amateurs would line up and Melissa would come out, dance with Shane, and everyone would have a great old time. But there was a delay in the thumbs up coming up to me and Greener as we were on the stage, and a few furrowed brows and worried looks, and Barbara Gribben looked up at me and somebody else, maybe Mandy Campbell, suggested something's going on here. You had fallen wearing a pair of tights in one of the rehearsal rooms. Is that what happened?
I was warming up because we were judging before, remember, and Dad as well, he was judging too, and I was warming up downstairs just before going on because, I was just loosening up, and I did this jumping on Scott. The jump went up about 6 foot in the air, but when it came down, my knee dislocated. It popped out. Oh my God. Oh.
I remember that, and people probably who were there, maybe the drink was flowing, they didn't realise, but I had to try and ad lib, and I had no idea what was going on.
I know.
I could see of these furious gesticulations from the sideline saying something's going up. I was expecting you and the rest of the troupe to come up and start dancing. So I had to get Stephen Green out to come out. And to be fair, the consummate professional that he is, he did one of those old tricks that he does at weddings, and he had people up dancing. I think he was oblivious to what had happened. But what happened then, you'd actually really damaged. So you dislocated your knee.
It popped out, but it came back in again. Now, I shouldn't have danced. I should have stopped. I went to myself, oh my gosh, this has happened now literally minutes before we're supposed to go on here. And I went to myself, right, how can I deal with this? And just, can I walk my way through this, basically? Because there was just no other way around. Like, it was either that or that was it. Like, there was nothing.
Without being too unkind to the rest of the dancers, it was a shambles. Without yourself guiding them. So what did you take a stiff drink, or how did you get up? Or a couple of paracetamol? It wouldn't have had the desired effect, surely, in time.
Well, the thing was, it was just because, I was opening the part of it. I was, the soft shoe part was made to open it for, it was the introduction for the boys to come on. I couldn't believe it. And, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. So I said, right, just, grin bear this. I ruptured my Achilles on stage with Riverdance we did years ago. I said, so I bear that pain, and now I'll just deal with this. So I smiled. And I mean, I was in agony, but I walked around that stage and I let the top half of the body do the talking that night because
I remember Melissa looking on from the sidelines behind the curtains, knowing what had happened, going, and you were smiling, but it was a grimace underneath that smile. And
I tell you it was, yeah.
But it just shows your dedication to your craft, I must say. Look, we'll have to wrap it up. We only have a couple of minutes left, Melissa.
Sure.
Your kids, you're saying that you're settled in Banbridge and you're here for a while now. You're back in the hearth, is that right?
I am absolutely. Kids are at school, all settled. So, but with us, we're used to touring about. We're always used to getting up and going.
Don't be saying that. Don't be saying that. I was going to ask you the final couple of questions. What role do you see for dancing down the line? Do you think it is growing, or can it grow a bit more? Certainly, specifically in the Banbridge area.
Yeah, I think it can grow more in the Banbridge area. I would love to see it grow more in the Banbridge area because you have, the cities where, of course, you have a lot more kids, so they naturally will flock to that. Whereas, smaller towns, you wouldn't get as much of demand. I would love to see it growing more. But definitely, dancing is very popular. And Irish dancing is growing really, really well. So I would love to see it grow more in Banbridge, and surrounding areas, So, but definitely there is room for more growth here in town for sure.
And there would be clearly, I'm sure you'd agree, an overlap with the kids who come up to Clann under 8s and under 6s, and
Yes.
your own school. And you've already mentioned at the start of the interview, Melissa, what do you think? I think nobody could argue with it, the benefits in terms of exercise and mental health that it has for kids.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, just talking to my own students today in class, they're, just checking in with them and seeing how they were doing, and, they're coping and get your schoolwork done. Great. I says, now this is the time where we forget about everything and we just dance it all away. It's no better way. And I always say that, even myself when I was dancing in Riverdance and whatever, if you were stressed out about something, the minute you went onto stage, everything just went. It was the best feeling ever. So there's no other way to do it.
Can I ask, just to finish off, Melissa, for any kid, or indeed for any parent of a kid who's listening, where can they find out information about your school, your dancing school?
Yes, well, it's the Convery Academy of Irish Dancing, and we're on Facebook, so you can find us on Facebook, and you can contact me directly through messaging. And surely, absolutely, if any kid wants to start dancing out there, you are very, very welcome to come and join our class. We have a great wee school and great atmosphere and a great family feeling about the school, and we will welcome you with open arms and love to keep the culture and the dancing going.
Great stuff. Miss, our time's nearly going here, because as a cheapskate, I can't afford any more than the 40 minutes that Zoom allows you to. So thanks a million. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed that chat with Melissa Convery Masterson. This has been another Clann Keeping Up the Clans podcast. Melissa, hope to see you very soon, and I hope your family are keeping as well as they can during lockdown.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Conor. It was a pleasure to do the interview.
Gar Maggot Slan.
Gar Maggot Slan.